Hi, second grade. Mrs. Shook again. Grade 2 skills. We're on Unit 2, Lesson 5. Our learning goals for today. Reading the tricky words you, no, go, and so. Spelling words with the inflectional ending ed. Reading words with the double O spelling, whether it's an or an oo. And then reading the frog race and answering questions about the story. First, we have the word soon. In this word, the double O has an oo sound. Like moon, noon, spoon, broom, and two. In all of those words, the double O says ooh. Like in soon, ooh. Add that to our chart for an ooh sound. There's a lot more sounds to cover this year, but right now it's ooh. Okay, but the double O can also have another sound. In this word, we have look. So in this spelling, the double O says look. So putting that on the sound chart. If you still have your individual code chart, it would be a good idea to add these two spellings. Okay. Tricky words. Our first tricky word is no. Now, normally the O makes an ah sound, but the word is not na, it's no. So even though it's a single O, it's making a long O sound. No. Same thing with the word go. Go get your pencil. And so. So, I would like to have ice cream. Alrighty. Now on to our reading portion. Last time, we read the first part of our trickster tale, and today we're going to read part 2. As a reminder, a trickster tale is a story about a character who outsmarts larger, stronger characters. And in last lesson, we also talked about quotation marks. They show when someone is speaking. They go before and after someone's words. Did you like this book? Asked the teacher. Tim replied, it was the best book ever. And you can see the quotation marks around the words that each person said. We also practiced with little Adam, our stick figure friend. Adam said, and then we put a comma. The quotation marks come first. Capital I like to eat pretzels. Exclamation point because he's so excited. With the end of quotations on the outside. Right, just a review because we'll see quotation marks and dialogue in the story today. And then the two double O sounds that we talked about this morning. We have the long oo, drooled, and whoop. And the short looked, to ook, and goodness. So just keep that in mind when you see words with a double O spelling. Vocabulary for today's story. Stunned. We were stunned when our team lost the tournament. That means shocked or surprised. Sayings and phrases. Hitched up. The farmer hitched up his pants as he waded through the mud, so pull up with a sudden movement. Solid as a rock. Very hard is what that means. We left the modeling clay out overnight and it was solid as a rock in the morning. Okay, and then just like before, the double E's, you might see more of those. E, stream, complete. All right, the frog race. Dad, Mike said when he woke up. What happened with the jumping frog? I missed the end of the tale. I was sleeping. I did not tell it to the end, said his dad. When you drifted off to sleep, I stopped. Oh, tell the ending, said Mike. Mike's dad picked up the tale where he had left off. So it's the morning. Mike woke up. He's bright outside. His dad's like, don't worry, I didn't finish the story. So he's going to tell the end of the tale now. Big Jim, which you can see in the background of the story, handed his frog to Pete. Here's this guy, Pete, with a black vest, and ran off to the stream. Pete held Big Jim's frog in his hand. Pete looked at the frog. Then Pete reached into his pocket and got a pile of limes. Yum. Big Jim's frog drooled. If you don't know what a lime is, it's a type of citrus fruit, kind of like a lemon but smaller. The frog ate the whole pile of limes from Jim's hand. Excuse me. The frog ate the whole pile of limes from Pete's hand. Then Pete set the frog down. So here's Pete feeding the frog all of these limes, a whole big pile. While Pete was feeding the frog limes, Big Jim was down at the stream. He tossed off his boots and went frog hunting. At last he nabbed a nice green frog. He ran back and handed the frog to Pete. "Here's your frog," said Jim. "Just set him down there next to my frog. Then we will let them compete to see which one of them is the fastest." So remember, they're having a race. They're having the frogs race because Big Jim said his frog was the fastest frog ever. And Jim bet Pete $10 that his frog would win. Pete set his frog down. "All set," said Jim. "All set," said the man. Then Jim yelled, "Jump, frogs, jump!" And if you look, here's the frog they just found in the stream, and here is Big Jim's frog with his belly full of limes. Pete gave the two frogs a tap to get them jumping. His frog hopped off nice and quick. But Jim's frog just sat there. Once he hitched up his legs like he was fixing to jump, but it was no use. With all those limes in him, he was planted there as solid as a rock. His tummy was full. Pete's frog hopped and hopped till he got to the finish line. "Fine race," said Pete. He took Jim's $10 and slipped the cash in his pocket. Then Pete tipped his hat and set off. Well, Big Jim was stunned. "What happened to my frog?" he said. "I hope he's not sick." He bent down and picked up the frog and rubbed his tummy. You can see all the limes poking out of his belly. "Goodness," said Jim. "He must have had a big lunch." "I think Pete tricked me. He fed my frog too much to eat," Jim said. Big Jim let out a whoop. His face got red. Jim ran to catch Pete, but it was no use. Pete had run off. Pete had tricked Big Jim. So he tricked him by taking the bet and then feeding the frog all the limes to make sure that he would win the bet. Okay, here's our little graph for our story. Our story title is The Jumping Frog. The genre or type of story is a trickster tale, a tale where someone is tricking someone else. Pete, the small little old man, tricked Big Jim. The setting is long ago in the West. Our two main characters, Big Jim and Pete. And the plot, or what happened, is Big Jim challenges Pete to race his frog. And to add to that, while Big Jim was getting another frog, Pete fed Big Jim's frog a pile of limes, and he wasn't able to hop. Okay, so now that we're ending our lesson for today, you have some work on Google Forms, Skills Unit 2, Lesson 5. There'll be some questions to answer there. And one more look at our spelling list for today. Today is Lesson 5, so it is spelling assessment. Yelled, yanked, slumped, limped, plopped, smiled, shrugged, liked, patted. And our tricky word, you. Great work today. See you next time.